Good morning, guys, and welcome to my unboxing review of the SDCS Tornado Gundam. I got this kit for around $20, which is around typical high-grade price. Honestly, this should probably be a little cheaper. Like, I've seen things like the Sisquid be like 15 or something. This should probably be around that, but it is what it is. Anyway, so this kit is based on the Tornado Gundam, which is the kind of grunt unit that you start out with if you've ever played any of the SD Gen games, like Overworld or Genesis or Cross Rays. This makes up the kind of bulk of your forces, and it's the kind of mediocre starting unit that you just kind of want to replace immediately, which is a shame because it does have a pretty cool design. As of the time of recording this, G-Gen Eternal came out literally yesterday, so I figured it was probably a pretty good time to cover this. Also, I am building another shelf to hold more Gunpla, and that's going to eat up a bunch of time, so I wanted to cover a kit that was more simple and would take less time to build and take a look at. So this kit is the SD Cross Silhouette. This is the first SD kit I've ever built. The SD line has never really appealed to me, but the Cross Silhouette kind of does, because as you can see here, there are two different versions of the Tornado Gundam that you can build with different frames. The Cross Silhouette, as you see on the bottom here, has kind of slightly more elongated proportions to recreate the proportions from the game more faithfully, so you can recreate poses from the game and such. The SD proportions here are very kind of stubby and have limited articulation, as you would expect. So yeah, here showing off the difference between the two, the SD frame on the left and the Cross Silhouette frame on the right. Of course, this is showing off the full unpainted build, just showing off that, hey, it looks pretty good out of box snap built. And of course, here it is alongside some other kind of SDCS kits, again showing off a full kind of SDG Gen spread of the Phoenix Gundam, the Tornado Gundam, and the Sisquid in both Titan and standard colors. The Sisquid being kind of it's a mono-eye Gundam. I don't remember exactly what it's from, but it's a kind of mainstay in the SDG Gen universe. You can get it pretty early, and it's a fairly decent unit. The Phoenix Gundam is another unit that I think in most cases you don't start out with, but you can get them fairly quickly because you start out with the Phoenix Zero, the upgrade into the Phoenix Gundam proper pretty early on. So yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get into it. So inside the box we get 3 bags of runners, as well as this manual, again showing off the differences between the SD frame and the Cross Silhouette frame, showing off the accessories you're going to get. Looks like 2 beam sabers, 2 Gatling guns that go on the forearms, and the beam rifle. And then getting into it, apart from the parts list here, which actually does look a little bit high-grady in terms of the parts you get. Some of these runners look a little small, but the actual parts count and stuff looks not that much simpler than a usual high grade. So getting into the actual manual proper here, it is going to be a bit unusual being split into 2 halves, the top half and the bottom half. Again, this depends on what version of the Tornado Gundam you want to make. The top half is if you're going to make the SD version, and the bottom half, which is what I'm going to be using, is going to make the Cross Silhouette frame for recreating stuff from the game with those slightly longer proportions and stuff. So as you can see, the build complexity here it's a little simpler than a high grade, as you would expect, but not that much simpler. It's certainly more than it's a little more than something like an entry grade. So yeah, this I wasn't really sure what to expect when I was going to take a look at this, because again, I've never built an SD kit before. It's never really appealed to me, but we'll see how it looks. So yeah, on the back here in color, again showing off the assembly of the SD frame and the Cross Silhouette frame, and then you build the head last. So there's only one kind of head, unlike the frame, of which there are 2, and the head, it looks like you're going to apply both the kind of super SD very cartoonish large eyes, and the standard kind of solid metallic eyes that, on the Cross Silhouette version, and you can just kind of spin the eyepiece depending to show whatever eye version you want to show, which is kind of interesting. And then it looks like you build the weapons, and all that's going to be fairly typical. Looks like some parts forming to kind of display the Gatling gun either in firing mode or in inert mode. So we'll see how that looks after I build the kit. As for the contents of the bags, we're going to get 9 runners here in these kind of very super deformed SD parts. Again, some parts are much smaller, some parts are much larger. It's just the nature of the design of the SD line. And we also get this rather large sticker sheet. A little unfortunate, but again, I'm expecting this to be a little simpler than a high grade, so yeah, this a lot of color correction is to be expected. But yeah, this is going to be, some of these are going to be fairly typical, because you see head camera stickers here, a foil sticker that will probably go behind a clear part, the kind of solid metallic green stickers for the CS style head, and of course these very super cartoonish SD eyes if you want to display it with those, alongside a bunch of color correcting stickers in white, red, and yellow. As for the runners themselves, okay, starting with runners A1 and A2, you may notice one of the parts from A1 kind of popped off, this small torso piece here. So these are going to be the generic kind of SD frame parts. As you can see, it just kind of says SDCS. I'm not sure if this says like frame 1 or something, or like Gundam 1, but yeah, so these runners were designed in 2018 with the kind of birth of the SDCS line, and these runners were printed in March of 2024. So presumably A1 and A2, these aren't really parts of the same runner, but these are presumably the entire kind of frame of this kit, and all the joints. A1 seemingly being for the standard SD frame, and A2 being for the cross silhouette frame. As you can see, there are more joints here, allows for more articulation, as well as the parts for the head. Runner B, getting into parts specifically for the Tornado Gundam. This is a 2023 designed runner. This is going to be a multicolored runner in 4 different colors. We have the main kind of standard Gundam yellow for things like the V-fin and various accent parts. We have a very nice kind of bold red here for parts like the feet and the parts for the head and such. You have clear green here for presumably things like the beam rifle or the head cameras, and the kind of eyes here. As you can see, there are kind of 2 halves of it. This kind of very large flat piece, which is presumably where the SD eyes are going to go, and this more well-defined piece, which is where the standard like kind of cross silhouette style eyes are going to go. And then you have white here for some accent parts, including the muzzle for the head, a part for the torso, and the beam sabers. Runners C1 and C2 here in the main kind of almost like Titan's dark blue. Maybe a little bit duller for the main kind of armor tone of the Tornado Gundam. C2 containing a copy of this kind of middle part of C1, in addition to having some other unique parts on the bottom here for parts like the waist. And as you can see, the top of C1 here has more unique parts for the Tornado Gundam's head, presumably parts for the backpack, the collar, and other armor parts. Runners D1 and D2 here in a kind of standard primer, like almost frame gray that you would see in a lot of other kits. D2 being a copy of this top left part of D1 for an extra Gatling gun. So here you have pretty much all of our kind of accessory and auxiliary parts. You have the kind of outline for the eyes for the cross silhouette style head. You have what I assume to be like kind of either like boosters or something that go on the backpack. You have the Gatling gun, of course, and then you have parts for the beam rifle here. For our hands, you will have runner MP, and kind of surprised that this SD kit has more hand options than a lot of typical high grades. You're going to have 2 standard holding hands here, a set of open expressive hands, and a trigger finger hand, so always nice to see. Finally, we have our beam saber effect parts. Runner SB6 here for a set of short style beam saber effect parts in clear yellow. Again, the SD kits are smaller than your typical high grade, as you would expect, so of course the beam saber proportions are a little bit smaller to match. With all that out of the way, I will see you after the build. Alright, welcome back. Here's the SDCS Tornado Gundam with the cross silhouette frame, snap built, lightly panel lined. There weren't super many opportunities to panel line it, as you might expect from looking at this design, and lightly painted. The only parts I did paint in were the backs of the hands. As you saw, they were on that MP runner. They were all just in that same kind of basic primer gray that lets you just paint the backs of the hands in any color to kind of match whatever the kit is. And as you can see, I painted them in Titan's blue, which actually does very nicely match the main kind of dark blue of the kit, so that worked out pretty nicely. The only other thing I painted was the beam rifle. I painted in the scope in metallic green. But for the most part, I left it pretty much out of box with just some stickers applied, because I feel like if you're going to buy an SD kit, you're not going to put that much extra effort into painting it in, especially with how many of the tiny details are not color accurate. There's a lot of very, very tiny detail painting that I am simply not equipped to do. That's not something I'm confident in really doing. So getting into the build, this is where this kit kind of defied what I was expecting a little bit, because I was, as I mentioned earlier, I was kind of expecting this kit to fall in line with something like an entry grade in terms of complexity. That certainly holds true for the standard SD frame. For the cross silhouette frame here with all the extra joints and stuff, that kind of falls in between an entry grade and a high grade in terms of complexity. Again, nothing too crazy, but it's just pleasantly a little better than what I was expecting it to be. The only other thing about the build that's kind of noteworthy are the nub marks. The way the runners are laid out, the gates aren't exactly the same kind of touch gates that you see on entry grades, but they're pretty close. This kit was pretty much entirely made with a single snip off the runner and just buffing out the nub marks with a fingernail. Like, it's very easy and simple to build. Like, the nub marks they're very, very minimal, which I think is quite nice. That does unfortunately come with the side effect of parts breaking off the runner. As you saw earlier, the kind of torso for the standard SD frame did snap off my runner in the box. Same thing with one of the kind of tips for the beam sabers. The beam sabers 2 parts, a white part and a navy blue part. The navy blue part kind of snapped off inside the box, and I had to go find that after the fact. That was not great, mostly because I'd already thrown away the plastic bags at that point, and it was in the trash, so I had to go sift through that to find it. But yeah, apart from that, the build for this kit was pretty seamless. There isn't really much to say about it. In terms of aesthetics then, this kit is interesting. I'm not the biggest fan of the standard SD look. The cross silhouette look I'm only really a fan of because I like the SD Gundam games. Like I've been playing G-Gen Eternal a bit on my phone. It's actually surprisingly nice for a free-to-play experience for a gacha game. I was expecting it to be a lot worse, like UC Engages. So this kit's pretty faithful to how the Tornado Gundam and the SD G-Gen games look. There's of course going to be a lot of minor color inaccuracies that kind of make this not color accurate, and a bunch of them are a giant pain to do on this kit specifically because of how small the details are. If you do want to make it color accurate, I will point those out in a bit. But in general, the proportions are pretty spot on. All the major details are there as you would expect. Either color accurate or fixed with color correcting stickers, most of which are fine. The only kind of really bad ones that I find you should definitely just paint. There are a couple. First off, these white tips on the bottoms of the front skirts. As you can see on the inside edge here, there's a bit of the underlying navy blue skirt that's just exposed. Yeah, this is better off you just paint it white, simple enough. And on the knees here, these two, there are two yellow stickers, one on each side of the knee, two for each knee. They really don't come together very seamlessly, and they do look very cheap and bad, so yeah, I would definitely paint that in yellow. Apart from that, the stickers mostly look okay. Even some of the wraparound ones, like these yellow ones on the backs of the thrusters, the red sticker on the underside of the shoulder there also looks alright. These red wraparound stripes on the back of the backpack that kind of go on each side also look pretty okay. But again, it's not super wraparound, just kind of bends around one edge. So yeah, in general, the stickers are fine. It's just the front skirts and the knees that I would bother painting in instead of using the stickers, because the rest of them are honestly pretty okay. Especially on the head, I think that's fine. You don't really need to paint that. The stickers do plenty. So proportionally, all I would really need to say, besides what I already have, is pretty self-evident. If you don't like the SD proportions, this kit is not going to change your mind. If you don't mind the proportions, this is a pretty cool mobile suit, especially because the SD version is literally the only version in kit form that we have. And if you like SD, you were probably going to buy this, or you have bought this already. Now, before I get into color correcting stickers, I do want to point out that a lot of this kit does have hollow details that are a bit annoying. They are obscured most of the time, but sometimes they are visible and it is a bit annoying. You'll see on the inside of the biceps there, I don't know how you can tell, that is hollow. On the undersides of the feet, there's a bunch of hollow space there. On the backs of the hands, you'll see that there's a ton of hollow space here. Again, I'm not exactly sure how much money they save by leaving this tiny bit of plastic off the hands, but yeah, there's a hollow space on the hands. And the kind of worst example of it is on the insides of these kind of auxiliary thrusters in the backpack, completely hollow. It just looks terrible. So if you do want this to look, I guess, accurate or complete, you're probably going to need some plot plate or something just to cover this up. Yeah, that's a little annoying. Especially for the price of this kit. They're charging the price of a kind of typical high grade, and there's still all these hollow spaces and stuff on the inside. So yeah, that's not great. So now I'm going to go over the color correcting stickers. As you can see, I used pretty much all of them, except for this one sticker for the head camera because there's a clear foil sticker. In the same fashion as some other master grades, like the Age 1 I took a look at, they give the option of putting a foil sticker behind, like a plain reflective foil sticker behind a clear colored part, just to give it a sense of depth, which I think looks really nice, as you can see on this front head camera. That does give a very nice sense of depth there, very cool. Definitely a lot better than just the standard metallic green sticker. So starting with sticker 1, the one I did not use for the front head camera, sticker 2 is going to be for this rear head camera here, as you would expect. Sticker 3 is going to be that reflective foil piece I mentioned that goes behind the clear plastic for the front head camera. Stickers 4 and 5 are going to be the individual eye stickers for the cross silhouette style eyes. Sticker 6 then, if we take this off, if you take top of the head off, is going to be the SD style eyes that go out kind of on the back of this eyepiece when it's in cross silhouette form. So here it is on the front, and here's the Tornado Gundam with the SD eyes kind of installed. Again, this is the cross silhouette frame, not the SD frame. You need to disassemble the whole kit if you want to mount the SD frame instead. I'm not going to do that. Stickers 7, 8, and 9, you get 2 of each. They are these white details underneath these kind of navy blue parts on the backpack. Of course, this is just one large yellow piece. There's just some small raised details that you put the white stickers on. Again, if you want to paint it, because they're raised and separated from the base yellow part, they are very easy to paint in. Sticker 10, you get 2 of. They're going to go on the legs. I don't know how we can see that. On the top of the yellow knee section, there's a gray sticker. Of course, you get one for each knee that kind of folds back. That is sticker 10. Stickers 11 and 12 are going to be these white kind of tips of the front skirts with this black detail in the middle to give the impression that like it's a hollow part. Stickers 13, you get 2 of. Similar to sticker 10, there's going to be these gray kind of details that go on the bottom of the knees, one for each knee. Stickers 14 and 15 are these wraparound yellow stickers that go on these thrusters on the backpack. Sticker 16, you get 2 of. They are the red stickers on the underside of the shoulders. Of course, you get 1 for each shoulder. Sticker 17, you also get 2 of. They're these red stripes that go on the backpack. Of course, they wrap around to the back of the backpack as well. Stickers 18 and 19, you get 2 of each. They are going to be these yellow stickers on the knees. So yeah, overall, the stickers are not great. I mean, as you expected for something like an SD kit, there are more stickers than usual. Most of them look fine. Again, the only ones that look really bad that I would say just paint in instead are the knees and the front skirts. Now getting to the parts of the kit that aren't covered by the color correcting stickers, and there are quite a few. These are only the parts that I noticed. There are definitely kind of a lot more There's definitely kind of a lot more that I probably didn't notice, but here are the ones that I did. On the top of this red piece here, there's supposed to be a yellow border around the bottom kind of thing here that I've just shaded in with some panel liner. Again, that's one of the things that's going to be a giant pain in the ass to detail paint. That is an exceptionally tiny piece, as you can see by my thumb being right next to it. Of course, the diffuse beam cannon in the center of the chest is just one red piece. I did shade in most of it in black with black panel liner. Same thing for the bottom of this crotch piece here. This is supposed to be shaded in. It's just navy blue. Same thing with this, all the white kind of vent pieces on the torso. Again, this is all just solid white. I shaded it with a panel liner. These yellow parts here are supposed, like this recessed area is supposed to be completely shaded in black. Did not realize that, just kind of panel lined the outside with brown. Of course, it's going to be on both sides of the shoulders. Similarly to the top red part in the chest, both of these like little sections on these red parts that I filled with black panel liner, again, also have to have a yellow border on the outside if you want to be color accurate. On the undersides of these sections, which I believe are, I think these are like the ammo containers for the Gatling guns on the undersides of the arms, this kind of door on the front needs to be yellow. Of course, it is just one molded gray piece on the runner. The sides of the ankle armor here, these little kind of raised bits that I've outlined in brown, are supposed to be red. They, of course, it's just one molded yellow piece on the runner. On the backs of these auxiliary parts on the backpack, they are, of course, it's just one large navy blue piece. The kind of center pieces here are supposed to be shaded in black. On the back skirt, I don't know how you can see that, there are 2 auxiliary thruster parts that are probably supposed to be a different color. I couldn't really tell, but I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be a different color. Again, it's just one molded navy blue piece on the runner. And on the beam sabers, these kind of raised details on the sides of the beam sabers are supposed to be in yellow. They are just, of course, navy blue. And then the other main color inaccuracy I noticed was on the beam rifle. As you can see, it's just one color, it's 2 halves sandwiched together. This very kind of Gundam Mark II styled beam rifle. It is supposed to be in 2 different colors. The gray on this kit is mostly only supposed to be used for the E-Pack magazine, the barrel, and the handle. The rest of it is supposed to be in a kind of metallic silvery color. That should be easy enough to paint in with how kind of raised all of the details that are supposed to be painted in are. So yeah, a lot of color inaccuracies on this kit, but it's an SD kit, so it was kind of to be expected. So in terms of accessories, here's the SDCS Tornado Gundam with everything it comes with. Starting as usual with the hand options, of course you're going to get a set of standard holding hands. As I mentioned earlier, they are not color accurate. The backs of the hands are just in gray. I painted them in Titan's blue to match the rest of the armor. You will of course get 2 quite nice open expressive hands here, one for each side, and then you will get this trigger finger hand only for the right side. So a little unfortunately you don't get one for each side, but again it's an SD kit, so I'm not sure if that was super expected. Oh, another part I forgot to mention about the hollow parts, the palms of the open expressive hands are going to be very hollow, unfortunately. You will get these 2 Gatling gun pieces that you use the parts for in the Gatling gun when it's in use. Of course, you just pop this part off the side of the forearm, and then you just attach one of the other half of the Gatling gun piece to pose it firing off the Gatling guns. As shown off earlier, you will get this very Gundam Mark II style beam rifle here. Not much to say beyond what I already have. And then, of course, for your beam saber effects, you will get these 2 short style beam saber effects in clear yellow. As mentioned earlier, of course, being an SD kit, it kind of needs the short style beam effects to proportionally match the Gundam. And to use those beam effects, you will have these two beam sabers mounted on the side skirts. They just slide off these two pegs when you want to use them. Not much to say, they are standard beam sabers. The only thing I will add is that beyond being used as standard beam sabers, in very kind of Justice Gundam style, you can link them together to use as a double beam saber if you want. So yeah, the accessory spread is pretty much everything you would really expect to see from the Tornado Gundam. The only thing I would say that is really missing from this in terms of accessories is maybe a beam effect to use on the diffuse gun in the chest, but again, with the way it's molded, I don't know how that exactly would attach without them with the way that this is. If they wanted to attach something, they probably would have put a hard point in the middle. Quickly getting into a size comparison. So if you haven't built an SD kit before like me, yeah, here's how tall it is compared to a standard size high grade, being the high grade Blue Destiny Unit 1. Head height, the SDCS Tornado Gundam with the cross silhouette frame is going to be about 2/3 the size of a standard size high grade, including the large wing kind of backpack. It does reach up just underneath the head height of a standard high grade. So if you get a kit that doesn't have this kind of super over-the-top backpack, it is going to take up about 2/3 the space of a standard-sized high grade. If you get something like this, then height-wise, it's still going to be shorter than a standard-sized high grade, but it will take up a little more volume in terms of the depth you need on your shelf. So getting into articulation now, this is just pointing out that this is in fact the enhanced articulation from the CS frame. The articulation is significantly worse with the standard frame. That frame doesn't have elbows or knees or anything like that, and the way the legs attach is it just kind of goes up into a little socket, so you don't really get that much out of like the legs in terms of kicks. So in terms of head articulation, this is as far as it looks up. Yeah, as you can imagine, with this gigantic head, the ball joint isn't as like kind of tall as you would need to get it to have a proper head tilt. So yeah, that is the highest you can get it to look. In terms of the downward tilt, that is as far down as it can look. You can spin this 360, but these white shoulder caps tend to pop off if you do so. Again, this head is gigantic, so that's not super feasible, although you can get a pretty solid, yeah, see, there it goes. Even doing this kind of like solid, like kind of side look, the white shoulder cap does pop off. In terms of the arms then, the shoulders will get a slight swing forward, like so. The shoulder can't really move independently of the arm, especially with this giant head in the way. So as far as sidearm raises go, that's as far as you get. Barely 45 degrees. You will get a full rotation in the bicep. This is mostly to facilitate posing it using the Gatling guns. You do have a joint in the elbow to give you just about a 90-degree bend. And then, of course, the wrist is going to be on a ball joint, which will do ball joint things. In terms of the torso, for ab crunch then, you will get a ever so slight forward crunch. For back crunches then, again, very minimal. And of course, in terms of rotation, you would have gotten a full 360 rotation if it wasn't for this large kind of thruster part interfering with the backpack. If you kind of tilt the abs forward, it can rotate, although it really doesn't want to. So your effective rotation is limited to about 45 degrees to either side, so not great. In terms of the waist then, of course there's no hip drop mechanism as you might expect from looking at this SD kit. The front and back skirts don't articulate at all, they are fixed in place. The side skirts can swing up like so, and then it can also rotate about a ball joint. In terms of the kicks then, for a full forward kick, you will only get about 45 degrees. If you kick the leg out to the side a little bit, you can get about 90 degrees. In terms of side raises, you will get just under 90 degrees before the side skirt will want to pop off. And in terms of back kicks, you will get about 45 degrees. You will, of course, get rotation in the thigh. You can actually do a full 360 rotation with this one. It won't collide with anything. In the knee then, for this knee bend, you will get about a 90-degree bend in the knee. This ankle armor is on a ball joint, so it can swivel around and do ball joint things. For the foot then, of course, there is no toe separation. The entire foot can swing forward a decent amount. It can swing downwards a not great amount, but it's better than nothing. And you can get some pretty solid side-to-side tilt. So overall articulation is very limited, as you would expect from this design. The foot articulation is quite nice, but the torso articulation and the arm articulation leave a lot to be desired. I also forgot to mention on the backpack, the wings can kind of swing about. It's a peg and a socket, so you can swing it around to have it look a little bit more dynamic depending on how you're framing it on the shelf. And of course these back auxiliary thruster units are going to be on ball joints. So let's see some of that articulation in action in the posing section. I will switch these eyes back to the CS style eyes because I like those more than the SD style. So getting the SDCS Tornado Gundam into a bit of a spin here, starting with the usual running and gunning pose. First off, very surprised that this can hit this. With how wacky the design is and how kind of comparatively small the feet are to the rest of this design, I really wasn't expecting this to be able to stand up on one foot, but it can. It was actually surprisingly easy to get it into this pose, much easier than the Dantalion I took a look at a couple of days ago. But it also doesn't look that bad. Like, the articulation is very stunted in this kit, but the proportions make it so it doesn't really matter. And we're just looking at it doing this. You just see a little guy just taking a little hop, a little step while shooting off to the side. It looks fine. I can see myself putting this on like a dresser or something as like a little display thing. It's, like some people have like Funko Pop collections or whatever. I can see myself posing some like SD kits just kind of on the dresser or the nightstand like that as part of like a little mini display. I probably wouldn't put this in the main collection, especially doing this kind of pose, but it certainly looks fine. I would definitely consider displaying it like this, doing this pose. Like, it looks a lot better than a lot of other kits would be doing this kind of not quite full-on running and gunning pose. So getting it into the air, doing a bit of a spin here, showing off the double beam saber. I have it here doing my best impression of a Justice Gundam, kind of super over the top, holding the double beam saber out in front of it. Unfortunately, the leg articulation doesn't really keep up with that, but it does look pretty good. While it is like in terms of absolute scale, not that big of an accessory, especially, but compared to the SD Gundam, the double beam saber is quite large, and definitely gives it a lot more kind of appeal on the shelf. It draws your eye to it a little bit more presence. It's definitely pretty striking. It's a pretty cool accessory to have, honestly. In the SD games, I didn't really recall seeing it using the double beam saber in like Overworld or Crossrays or Genesis, but it's cool that they included it. I really like this accessory. I would definitely consider posing it with this if I wasn't posing it with firing off the Armgatling Gun, but yeah, very cool pose. It definitely looks quite nice in the air. I have it here on a bootleg Action Base 7. The kind of lightweight of the SD kit, I don't know if you recall, but this base was in one of my other videos. I don't remember which one, maybe the Barbados one, but it was bouncing a lot because, again, bootleg quality. But it does hold the SD kit here quite nicely. So yeah, this is quite a lightweight kit, and if you have a knockoff base that isn't necessarily the most sturdy thing, there's definitely a kit that can fit on there pretty solidly. So now getting it spinning in the air, firing off its most unique weapon, the arm-mounted Gatling gun. So first thing to notice here, I don't know why they didn't give us a replacement open expressive hand on the runners unique to the Tornado Gundam. When the kind of generic runner has the palm hollow, the Tornado Gun's like specific pose that it does when it fires off the Armgatling Gun in-game, it tilts the wrist up. So the very hollow palm is on full display here, which doesn't look the greatest. Definitely if you want to have I guess a more complete, more accurate model, definitely get some like plow plate or something and just fill in that hollow gap. Just paint that over with some standard kind of gray primer or whatever to match the rest of the frame. But it, like the palm aside, this is a pretty nice pose. Definitely the Armgatling Gun is very unique. It gives this kit some very unique value on the shelf compared to some other SD kits. I don't know if there's an SD Alex or something like that. I don't think there's an SDCS Alex for sure, but if like the BB Senshi line, I don't know if that includes the Armgatling Gun or how it looks. Yeah, definitely in the SDCS line, this Armgatling Gun's a very unique option to pose the Tornado Gundam doing. It looks quite nice. Again, the pose in the game, the legs aren't doing anything super crazy, so you can get a pretty accurate game firing pose. The only really inaccurate thing here, apart from the lack of lighting effects, is the fact that it's holding the rifle in the other hand, but I like displaying kits with like as many weapons as possible as they can hold without looking completely ridiculous, and this looks pretty good. This is definitely how I'm going to display this kit. So in conclusion, the SDCS Tornado Gundam is about an accurate representation of an SDG gen like video game Gundam that you can expect to see in the real world. The proportions are, again, about the same as in the game with the cross silhouette frame. Of course, if you want the kind of more standard SD, like very chibified frame, that is also included in the box, but to recreate the kind of game poses and stuff, the CS frame does an admirable job of recreating it with the proportions of this kit. Again, some of the posing with the head and the legs is very off and can't really do things super believably. This kit's a lot nicer than I was expecting it to be. Being an SD kit, I was going into this, I was thinking it was going to be pretty close to like an entry grade or something. This definitely goes above and beyond that. It's kind of in between an entry grade and a high grade in terms of build complexity. Again, nub marks are basic. basically non-existent. They're very easy to clean up, very nice, seamless build. Aesthetically, there's a lot of very tiny, annoying detail painting you're going to have to do if you want to get this color accurate, but again, those details are so small that unless you are like holding it like inches away from your eye, you're not going to notice it. And apart from the hollow gaps that are very noticeable on this kit, the aesthetic of this kit is more or less accurate. Really, all you would really want to do is maybe replace the stickers with some like light painting, and fill in the kind of spaces on the kit that are supposed to be hollow with like black panel liner or something. After you do that, you have a nice display of an SD Tornado Gundam. The accessories that they include is pretty much everything you would expect the Tornado Gundam to have. It does have its complete arsenal, and the posing it does have lets you recreate a lot of the in-game poses more or less accurately, which is quite nice. So would I recommend this kit? Honestly, if you've never built an SD kit before and you don't hate the proportions, I would definitely give this one a try. It's definitely better than I was expecting it to be, and in the future, I might pick up some future SDCS kits or something, if any are on sale. At some point, I might take a look at the MGSD kits, although it's kind of low on my priority list. I'm not really the biggest fan of the kits that they've turned into MGSD so far. I might pick up the Aerial when that drops. Who knows how much it'll cost in the States when that comes out. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this kit if you aren't super turned off by the SD proportions. So that was my review of the SDCS Tornado Gundam. What did you think of this kit? Let me know in the comments below. If you like reviews like these, please consider subscribing to my channel. If you like this video, give it a like. So next week, I'm going to be taking a look at a couple of transforming kits, the MG Eclipse Gundam first, and then later on I will be taking a look at the high-grade Methus. After that, I will begin taking a look at all of the kind of heavily armed kits I was originally supposed to start taking a look at this week, but a bunch of scheduling stuff happened. I did finally get an email from P Bandai on the estimated shipping date of my April order, which includes the D Gundam first, which I'm very much looking forward to taking a look at. That's supposed to start shipping out on April 25th, so I'm expecting to get those kits around the first week of May or so, at the latest, like the second week of May. So yeah, I will see you next week with my review of the Master Grade Eclipse Gundam. I'll see you then.